Hello and welcome to Owning Authenticity. It's so cool that you're here. Excited to have this conversation with you about intention. Okay, I was having a conversation with someone over the weekend and I got so lit up when I was talking about intention. Like it was like sexy. Okay, so like attractive. Me and intention, we're doing a thing over here. We're having a relationship and I'm into it. And I want to share some of that energy because it felt so good to me. And the feedback that I got from the person that I shared it with, in divine timing, of course, as all things are, the reflection was that it was constructive information about like how to build a world, how to create yourself to be a match to whatever you want. Okay, like Pisces energy, like the dreamer, the non-physical, the quantum unified field of the all. The all meaning all of the past, all of the future, all of the now. It's all there. It's all there outside of time. It's all present. It's all already done. It's all available. And then Virgo energy, bringing it into the physical, bringing it into the practical of like, okay, how are you actually gonna live that thing that you can see? And intention. Okay, like when we tie these two things together, this Pisces energy and this Virgo energy, which is really lit up right now because there's like a shit ton of things going on in Pisces, and the Pisces North Node transit is happening right now, and the Virgo South Node is always, South Node is always opposite the North Node. So Pisces Virgo, like this collaboration of energies that are opposing each other, right? Like the unified field could not be more opposite from the Virgo attention to detail of like the microscopic attention that can be paid to the details of the physical. Like it's made of matter. It's just full of details. And it's very right there in front of you. It's very observable. It's very concrete. And Pisces is like, anything is possible, it's all available. It's all right there. Like you can access anything through your emotions. Like it's available. Vast, infinite. Okay. And pretty abstract, right? Like it's not specific. It's like general brushstrokes of imagery and symbolism, and like it's all kind of up for interpretation, right? Like there's no like right answer. There's just information coming through our intuition. And so like when you go to combine these two of like, okay, so then if you have a dream for your life, and let's just assume that you do because you're watching my channel, so I gotta think that if you want to be your authentic self, you have some kind of sense of the importance of that as far as like your soul's mission, your soul's karma, the agreements that you made, the reason you're here, right? Like that you can kind of get a sense of like, there's a specific intention that my soul is holding as far as like why I came forth into this life to begin with. And I got to think too, if you're watching a video that's like at least a little bit about astrology, you also have a sense of like understanding the uniqueness and the individuality of your soul and how to interpret the information that's coming through you and channel that into the earth realm as far as allowing that to affect your decision making, right? Like trust your intuition, act on it. And that is kind of the blend between the Pisces and the Virgo, the dreamer and the practical creator, like the hands in the clay that are actually going to make it happen, right? Like all the dreams in the world don't change the world if you don't like put them into action and let them unfold, right? Plant the seed in the ground and then see what happens, right? Dreaming of a beautiful plant and planting a seed in the ground are two different steps, and they're both necessary, right? Like, and so intention is kind of this bridge between the two, and it starts very much in the feeling, in the dreamer, in the vision, in the ecstasy of how good can you imagine it to be, right? Because if we're going to dream on purpose, which let's again just assume that you are, because anxiety is when we misuse our imagination and point it at things that scare us, okay? And dreaming is when we, in my opinion, properly use our imagination as the abundant tool that it is and point it at things that feel really good to us. So intention is about, like, dreaming on purpose. It's about how good can you imagine it to be, and like reach for that. And like, what does best case scenario look like, you know? And when we go into the quantum, into the unified field, into the dream, into the imagination space of infinite possibilities, right? That is not about editing. That is not about limiting. It's not about like, well, that one's not practical. That's not possible. So I'm going to like not even write it on the list. Like, no, no, write it all on the list, because you need all of those to do the work then of interpreting and bringing the themes into the practical. And so I want to ground this as much as possible into like a real example. And that's really what clicked as far as what I shared with the person over the weekend, was like, you know, actually, and I'm going to write this down because I don't want to forget. I want to take a second and talk about, you know, if you're someone who is newer to setting intentions and that you are looking for inspiration for what intentions would be worthwhile for you to focus on. I want to talk about the mirrors that are available in our reality. And these mirrors are the people around us. And the inspiration for your own personal intentions, I feel, and this is just how I relate to my mirrors, the people around me, the people who I choose on purpose to spend a lot of time with. This is my approach as far as when I look in my mirrors, when I observe the people around me and I judge them, I start feeling things about how they should be different. That judgment of them is a source of inspiration of what you personally value, right? Like in your judgment of them and how they are different from how they should be, really all you're seeing is how they are different from you. And that's allowed, right? Like we're all unique. We're all sovereign extensions of God. And so they're allowed to be different, and you get the benefit of this like natural judgment that is very human in nature. Like it's not, you know, like, oh, you suffer from that, huh? Like, no, dude, it's the human condition. Like we're all in it together. And so you're naturally judging the people around you. And when you tune into those judgments with like a little bit of like detachment of like, you're allowed to have your judgments, because it is such a good source of information for telling you about you and what's really important to you. And if it's really important to you and like you tune in to kind of like what Abraham Hicks says as far as like the contrast is necessary, because you need to know what you don't want to know what you do want, right? And the judgment is the don't want part. It's the part where like you're different than you should be, and cool, right? Like that doesn't feel awesome. And we if we're really, practiced up, if we've put in our 10,000 hours and we're a master of scooping up those judgments and learning about yourself so that you can flip to the other side of the coin from what is not wanted to what is wanted. Who are you? Who are you and what matters to your heart? Because the way you judge other people will tell you a lot about what matters to your heart. And that's something that I love to get into with people. And what I've learned in my experience is that often it's a kind of tough conversation to have with someone, and I'm blessed that I have met many people where it is an easy, free-flowing conversation of personal values and authenticity and soul mission and like self-understanding of like the being that you are and why are you here, standing there on purpose, knowing what you are. And like I've had conversations with people like that, and often people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And so the whole story of the conversation from the weekend started with one of these projections, one of these, like, the person had looked in the mirror of their friend and was like, well, if he would just, and then had like a very practical, very like logical, like that makes total sense, like idea for improvement. Like, yes, it makes total sense. And he was very much like he should, if he would just, putting it on him that like he should really do that. And like there was like fire in it. There was conviction in it. Again, like you're touching into something that matters to your heart when you're getting fired up, lit up about it. And I took it like I do, right? Like I explained that like this is just how I relate to judgments. So like when you look at somebody else and you think that they should be doing something different, again, that is like such a valuable source of information about like how are you going to embody that? What does that mean for you in your daily life, in your lived experience, in your choices? That we make like tens of thousands of choices a day, like a day, every day. Like we're making thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of choices. And we spend almost no time thinking about any of them. We run on our program almost exclusively. Right? Like we don't even really resonate with making 50,000 choices a day because we're mostly just running on like autopilot, like zombie mode of like doing what we did yesterday. And that was only what we did the day before that. And like for most things that we do every day, like it just stretches back into eternity as far as like the program just keeps running generation after generation, not even just in our own lives. And when we set an intention, we are on purpose making those choices to align with that intention. Like we're on purpose about looking at the circumstances of our life through the lens of how can I leverage this situation to further my intention. And that is all very rooted in that connection to something that matters to your heart, right? Like we set surface level intentions and then don't stick to them. And then we think intention setting doesn't work. And that's just not true, right? Like that's like laying a seed on the surface of the ground and then it blows away and you're like, I don't know what happened. Dude, put it a few inches under the ground and then tell me what happens, like you gotta like get in there. You gotta get down underground with like down into your heart and like root it into what matters to you. And that's a very personal question as far as authenticity goes and knowing yourself and like understanding truly what is aligned with your soul. And that takes a lot of listening to your soul. And, you know, again, it's a practice. It's a garden that we cultivate, our authenticity. And so when we have the information about how we're judging another person and we're getting riled up about it, and now we can scoop up that judgment and we can take it into our own personal embodiment of our authenticity. We now understand ourselves better thanks to the reaction of our emotions, and we can implement the data that we've gathered to be more on purpose about aligning our daily life and our choices with who we really are on a soul level. And for me, intention setting is like that. And the deeper into your soul your intention is rooted, the more life-changing a process it is. And so really it's about how deep are you willing to go into yourself. And with that, I really want to talk about the specific example, because when I took the judgment that, you know, he's putting on his friend, and I bring that back to, okay, so what does that mean for you? You know, you're saying that he should, and it was beautiful, he should be more intentional. He should have a deeper, like more soulful intention about what he's doing. And, you know, yes, he's doing this cool thing. The surface of the thing that he's doing is very cool, but I'm pretty sure it's coming from this place. And I don't like the motivation of where that's coming from. He should be more intentional. Again, I found this conversation to be so sexy as far as like, we got projection, we got intention, we got soulful. Like, oh my God, it's got everything. It was a fun conversation. And okay, so he should be more soulful as he shows up to the things that he's already doing. How could you personally embody that more deeply? How could you be doing that 1% more? And because of the trust that is in this dynamic, that question was taken very seriously and was taken inside and was like reflected on, introspected on. And out came, you know, what is your intention? Like, what do you want to do? What things are you showing up to that you're devoting a lot of your time and energy to these things already? You're already doing it. And what would it look like to deepen your intention behind it into a more soulful place? And the example that was mentioned was, I want to create love. Like, I create love. And that opened this avenue to discuss like kind of the levers and pulleys of like, how do you actually set up an intention to make it as strong as it can be? And that is a good name for this video. How do you set up an intention? Making powerful intentions is an even better name for this video. That's called iteration. Take the first idea, and then when the second idea pops in your head and you like it better, then take the second idea. You're not married to any of them. Making powerful intentions. That's what we're talking about here. And that's what this conversation opened up, because I create love. It's an intention, which is relatively more powerful than no intention. And that's a beautiful thing. Okay. So even having an intention, no matter what it is, you are doing better than the vast majority of how all of us are living on a daily basis. Like, any amount of any intention you will ever try to hold, like those reps in the gym, they count. Okay, they matter. And when we think about intention, when we think about like this bridge that intention is between like the dreamer and the practical creator, the bridge, I want you to think about like how much energy And like, imagine even just people are like trying to cross this gap between the dreamer and the practical creator, like having the vision and making it in reality. So as we think about the bridge and bridging that gap, how many people can get across that bridge in a day if it's 6 inches wide? How many people could, cross? How many people could you stack up and have them make their way across in a day? Not very many. It's going to take a while for like each individual person to scoot their way across this 6-inch bridge. And what if you made it 6 feet wide? Okay, like how many people could walk across that bridge in a day? And like, think about that as far as how much energy can you bring out of the unified field, out of like infinite possibilities, where like you can literally dream anything you want. Like you can have anything you want, like in the dream, in the quantum. And how wide is your bridge? How strong is your intention? How deeply rooted into your soul is your intention? How focused are you on your intention? Another way that I talk about this is that our attention, our focus is a laser beam of energy, of our literal life force energy. We channel our life force energy, we pour it into and onto things by focusing on it, by giving it our attention, by letting it take up the one moment at a time focus that we have. There is no multitasking. There is no thinking about multiple things at once. Like, there is only the awareness of right now. And in a second, it can shift to something else. But like every single second of your awareness, you are spending your attention on something. And by doing so, pouring your life force energy onto it. And it's important to know what happens when you do that. And this is why I call it the laser beam, because anything that you put your attention on, it gets bigger. And that's a beautiful thing to know as far as anything that's going on in your life, understanding that anything that's big, especially the things you don't like or the things that you do really like you've cultivated that by giving it your attention. And you could put your attention in a different place and shift the size of that thing in your life, because if you give it less attention, it will shrink, period. Like, that's just how it works. It feeds off of your attention. And it's also really good to know, like, on the stuff that you are living, that you love, think about the intentions that you had, the things that you wanted. The dreams that you could feel, the feelings that were pulling you, that were, I really want to feel that. I want to have that experience. That's an intention. It's like looking at the dream world and imagining best case scenario. Like, what do you see? What do you want to experience? What are you dreaming of? What are you hoping for? And then how much of your own life force energy are you devoting to that package of feelings around your own best case scenario? Like, it's not just about focusing on the intention. The intention is probably just words. It's about going into your soul and feeling the feeling of what was it that you actually wanted to create. And this feeling connection will naturally bubble back up into remembering the value of what it is that you're trying to create and how important it is to your heart. Like, it's like when you go back down into the feeling of the vision and the dream, you're reigniting the fiery heart connection that you have, and you need that, right? Like, fire energy is necessary because it cuts through the things that are in the way. Right? Like, it helps to clear out all of the parts that are holding back the most potent expression of life force energy that's possible, right? It's cleaning off the top of the nozzle so that it can really emerge and life can continue to expand. Like, this eternal universe can do its thing. And so when we think about how wide is your bridge, How much attention have you given to your intention? How strong are you at pairing up your soul, creating an intention that is super potent, and bringing your focus to it over and over and over and over again? Like, it's no different than literally planting a seed in the soil, setting an intention, and then let's say that you stuck that, like you put some soil in a cup and you put the seed in there, and then you stuck it in a cabinet somewhere and found it 2 years later. Like, what do you think will have happened? Probably nothing. Like the seed is probably still sitting in the soil, and it's like just looks like a cup of dirt because nothing ever grew, because it didn't have any sunlight, it didn't have any water. Maybe it was the right temperature or not, but without sunlight and water, you're not going to get very far. And what's the difference if you set that cup on your counter and you see it every morning and you give it some water and it has some natural light access to it? I mean, it's only going to be a few weeks before you see a little green guy going, hey, hey, thanks for unlocking me out of my seed. I appreciate you. And now I get to grow up, as long as you continue to show up and like pour some water on me every once in a while. And if the sun keeps shining, which in all, that seems pretty abundant. So yeah, I should be good to go, keep meeting my minimal needs and I'll just keep on growing. And that intention, that seed that you plant, like it, come back to it and come back to it and come back to it and come back to what, right? Like the words are just the words, but like come back to the feeling of it and sink down into your soul, sink down into your heart space and remember the feeling of what it is that you're creating, right? Like we're not just checking things off a list. We're not just checking the boxes. We're allowing your heart to express itself in the 3D, which is a matter of anchoring divine energy into the 3D, anchoring the unconditional love of the universe itself, this benevolent universe, like anchoring that energy, being an anchor through your life experience and your expression, through your daily choices, right? Representing divine love with your daily choices. That is the highest possible road of combining Pisces and Virgo energy. And how wide is your bridge? Like let's just say that your intention is to widen your bridge. I want to bring as much energy, as much divine love as possible out of the quantum field. I want to plant that like a seed, and I want to nurture it and I want to cultivate it in my daily life. That's my intention, right? Like that, coming back to it and having that as like a daily practice of like, what does it look like today to widen my bridge? And one way to widen your bridge is to make your intentions as specific as possible. Okay, because there's like a micro macro kind of connection where you can take one specific intention for one specific thing and use it to widen your freaking bridge like faster than any other approach I've ever seen, okay, that I've personally practiced within myself and like helped other people to create things. And the more specific and focused you can be, it does something to your laser beam that intensifies the magnetic attraction power of your energy. Okay, and the reason this is important is because this is how to widen the bridge. And then the things that are able to pour out of the quantum field, out of infinite possibility, and fill in the reality, like how much energy can move across that bridge? How many people can walk across that bridge when it's 6 inches wide, when it's 6 feet wide, when it's 60 miles wide? Right? Like how much energy can you move? And today, what does it look like to widen your bridge? What does it look like to, stretch your capacity to bring energy through from your dream space, from your visions into reality? To get a little bit better at that, to get 1% better at that today. What would that look like today? And, that's where I love the flexibility of that. And I think you can still get really specific and still have flexibility. I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. But having an intention that's like, I create love, right? Like we talked about this as far as like, you have an intention, and that's really an amazing step as far as like the stepping stones of one step at a time. Like you got to start somewhere, and all intention setting starts in a general place. And when we will make it more specific, it's like our laser beam goes from, like I'm seeing one of those sprinklers that are like, we didn't have a pool. We had a sprinkler that like you hooked it up to the hose, and then that puppy, it just like kind of fanned itself back and forth. I'm sure you can picture exactly what I'm talking about. And then you just like jump through it, and you're having an experience, or like you put it under the trampoline. We did have a trampoline, grateful for that. But anyways, it's like your laser beam is kind of like this. Like it's very dispersed. It's very much like kind of going off in all directions, and every piece of grass that it's landing on is getting a little drop of water. Okay, that means you're dropping water on a lot of blades of grass. Okay, like many, right? We couldn't count them if we wanted to. And when you will get more specific about, like, I create love is that sprinkler of really spreading out your energy. You get more specific, and it goes from a sprinkler to like a fire hose, or like one of those like little nozzles where like it'll really like shoot a stream right at the thing. You can like dig a hole in the dirt with your stream, and this sprinkler ain't ever gonna do that, And so it depends on what your value system is. Like if you're trying to water a big area, and you only have a finite amount of water, like something that's going to like really spread it out is awesome. And the depth of the impact of the water available, I mean, it just gets more and more shallow the more you spread it out. Versus if you flooded a specific area, the depth of the water that's absorbed into that area is massive. And will go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And that is essentially the same as like widening your bridge, right? Like deeper and deeper and deeper into your soul, into like this unified field, this quantum of like infinite possibility where you are an extension of God. You are an extension of source energy. You have access to the energy that creates worlds. It's what you are. This is your soul. It's just pure creative potential. And then what do you choose to do on a daily basis becomes your human. And so it's the blending of these two things, and how wide is your bridge between soul and your daily choices, right? Like how much influence does your soul have in your daily choices? And these are questions that like, it's not meant to be perfect or like get there, like to where, yep, I'm good at that now. And like, it's like a stamp, like you got it, you passed the class, like this life, like it's like, how wide is your bridge right now in this moment? Like not even, the metaphor is not perfect, because that capacity, that width of your ability to bring energy from pure positive energy into your daily life, like that capacity is always fluctuating. The width of the bridge is always fluctuating. And how do you practice expanding it? How do you accept and give yourself grace and compassion when it's more contracted, when it's more narrow? How do you rest and downshift a couple gears and kind of slow down and rebuild your capacity then to go back into, like it's easy and cheap energy-wise to run on your program. And to be intentional, to make your choices on purpose, that costs energy. Okay, so when your gas tank is empty, it makes total sense that you're going to run more on your program. And when you intentionally are filling up your gas tank and you happen to be running on a full tank, that is such a good time to like, okay, so what does it look like to practice stretching my capacity? And so all of this to say, the final example that I'll leave you with, and I want you to kind of take this example and just, plant the seed under the soil and think about it, here and there over the next week or so, and just kind of see what comes to you as far as what matters to your heart, because the example that I gave over the weekend around making the intention more specific, like if you're starting with something that sounds like I create love, a more specific intention, and this is like 100 miles more specific, okay? With my specific son, with, like, say his name, like with this individual human, I am experiencing, and I put it in the sense of like it is happening right now, right? Like we're tuning into this future moment. We're tuning into the vision of the future, the dream of the future, but we're tuning in on it from the quantum where past, present, and future are all simultaneous. And so even though it's a future now moment, it's just a now moment. And from this now moment, we can look at all of them. And so we can go present tense on a future now moment, and we can say, I'm experiencing this moment where my heart is soft and open, and his heart is soft and open, and I can see his soul glowing through his eyes, and I am beaming my love back at him, and I can feel him softening and relaxing into receiving the warmth of my love. And as he does, it makes me feel so good. It's flooding energy from the bottom of my stomach. Okay, we're still talking about love, but we are in a very different ballpark than the intention, I create love. And if you can feel how I create love is kind of just words, like there's very little energy in it, you know, versus when you put a face on it, a face of someone you love, and you start molding the clay into best case scenario, the prettiest picture you can imagine, and then feel it. Like I just flooded my body with chemicals in that last little 20-second rampage, I don't know how long it was, of describing this future now moment that I can feel. That's real. You know, that's a real thing. And then it's a matter of coming back to that vision. And I just did it again. Like I just brought it back to mind, and like it flooded from the bottom of my stomach. Like I got a rush of chemicals again, very good feeling ones, of like feeling my soft open heart and seeing his face and seeing his soft eyes and his slow blinks and the light smile on his face, and he feels so good, and like watching him feel so good feels so good to me because I just want him to feel so good because I just love him so much. And like to just be in that moment, you know, just go back there and do it again. Widen the bridge, bring a little bit more energy out of the quantum infinite possibility and plant it into the right now moment, this right now moment. Right? And that is sharpening that laser beam. That is amplifying your magnetic attractive power. And that means that this future now moment that you're feeling, that feeling getting bigger and 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 bigger in your life is most likely going to make your vision like kind of inevitable. But it's so much bigger than that. And this is a conversation for another day about intention setting and what it's not. Okay, because like I could go on a whole thing about that too. But it's about how wide is the bridge and all the things that are going to pour out of infinite possibility into your life that are so much better than you could have even known how to ask for. Okay, the intention is just a vehicle for the emotion. What is the emotion that you want to bring out of quantum and plant it into your right now moment? That's really what the intention is for. But doing that is very slippery. And again, like we get better and better at bringing more energy through, the more specific we'll make it. Put a face on it. And this is also very good as far as a video that circulated more than my videos usually do and got some new subscribers, and welcome if that's you. So freaking glad that we get to have these conversations. It's a fun time. But as far as like making it more and more specific, we're dissolving layer after layer after layer of avoidance. Because that's another piece of like when we say something like, I create love, and our mind jumps to, you know, like the stranger that I pass on the street, like this nameless, faceless, like not that they have a name and a face, but you don't know because you don't have a relationship. There's no depth there. There's a drop of water on one blade of grass, and the impact of that is very short, very temporary. And that, to me, is a layer of avoiding. You know, you spend 99% of your right now life, and I'm generalizing this, and I'm pretty positive it'll land for almost everyone, but you spend a good majority of your life with maybe a couple handfuls of people, maybe a few handfuls of people. Like if you're a teacher or something and you're spending 40 hours a week with a room full of 30 kids, like, yeah, like you got more people really close up to you. But for the most part, like we spend so much time with a very small group of people, okay? Which means that if you want to bring through a lot of energy, you need a lot of specifics, you need a deep relationship, you need something, you need a face, you need a person, a relationship, a context that has history, that has details, that has specifics, because that's where the emotion will really be evoked. And so to plant our intention down into the places and the people where you spend the most time already, like what are you already showing up to? You know, you spend 40 hours a week doing this, you spend every single evening with these people, you know, what are the places and the people where you are already showing up? And what is best case scenario for those places and people? You know, and to get specific, like with this one person, this is the moment that I want to experience, and to really feel that connection with that one person. And in order to live that moment, you have to be a match to that moment. And what does that mean? Like you have to be capable. You know, like in that example that I gave, like with this specific child, I want to have this moment where I feel my soft open heart and I feel his soft open heart. And like, this is so beautiful. And if you don't have a soft open heart, you can't have that moment. You're not a match to that moment. And so what does it mean to become the person that's a match to that moment is that you got to have a soft open heart to show up and rendezvous with that experience. And so this is where we get into the more practical creator side of things, as far as how do you do this? How do you grow yourself into, how do you mold and sculpt your mixture of energies? How do you on purpose reprogram your nervous system to be a match to the life that you can see in your vision? If you can imagine it, you can create it, but how do you do that? And these are the conversations that I have with people that I am so freaking blessed to get to have with people. And if you're someone who would like to talk more with me specifically about creating your dream life, having the vision, sculpting the vision, spending time deepening the vision, and blending that with widening the bridge, bringing the energy through into the practical, planting the seeds, nurturing the seeds, growing the plants, making the fruit, harvesting the fruit, right? Like when we think about intentions, really what we're talking about is, I want this harvest. I want to have this harvest. I want to have this experience. I see this in my imagination. I dream of it. I want to feel that. Okay, cool. You want the harvest. Let's reverse engineer the harvest into what are the practical steps that have to be there. And it's the example I gave, as far as like, if you want to experience this connection with this soft open heart, you need a soft open heart. So let's work on softening your heart. Let's work on opening your heart. Let's get really curious and study, like, why do you close it off to begin with? And what does it feel like when it's closed? And what are those small, subtle steps of when you do recognize that it's closed, how do you start to open it again? And so it becomes a practice of like softening your heart, opening your heart. And the softer and more open your heart is, the more you're going to rendezvous with other people who can co-create this experience of this soft open heart. because you know how to co-create the experience of a soft, open heart. So it's about molding yourself to be a match to the things you can see in your vision. But this is what I do. This is the conversations that I have one-on-one with people. And so if that's you, if that's something you're interested in, you can actually go to owningauthenticity.com/activate and take advantage of a free 45-minute Zoom call if that's something you're interested in. The link to book it is right there. The appointments are what they are. And if there's nothing available, check back later. And I'm sure in divine timing, something will fall into place. So do feel free to take advantage of that. And in that conversation, the goal is to get 1% more clear on what the vision is and 1% more clear on what is that next step or two, right? Not a 57,000 point plan of how we're going to go about making it, but like maybe what are the components, or if you're further along and you know the components and you have something more specific, and like even then, like what is the next step? So like it goes from really, really general down to really, really specific. And I love this process of bringing energy out of infinite possibility and cultivating that garden on the 3D earth dimension. Okay. And I personally am in my life anchoring the energy of heaven on earth. Okay, that is what I want for my life. I want my life to feel like a pleasure garden from the inside out, meaning my inner world feels like that, my outer world feels like that, and this is 3D, baby. It ain't perfect, okay? And I ain't trying for it to be, but 1% more, 1% more, 1% more, 1% more. You do that for a few thousand days and you won't recognize your life. And, you know, those days are going to pass no matter what. And bringing a little bit of intention and attention to your intention a little bit every day, you know, 1% more. And even watching this video today, this is way more than 1% more in raising your awareness. And so if you have enjoyed the video, do take a second and give it a thumbs up. That is super duper helpful to my channel. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you want to turn on the bell notifications, all the good things you know how to do. You know how to do you. You know what you want. You know your preferences. They're hiding in plain sight. And if you want a mirror who can help you get just a little bit more clear, dude, that's what I do. Hit me up, owningauthenticity.com/activate. Maybe I'll talk to you soon. Until next time, do take such good care of the precious extension of source energy that you are, and so will I.